My name is Dorian, and I'm a 37-year-old night shift nurse. I've worked in a small-town hospital in Iowa for nearly a decade. I've seen my fair share of unusual events, but nothing prepared me for what happened that night. It was a Tuesday, and everything was unusually quiet. The kind of quiet that makes you believe the old stories about the hospital being haunted. I was doing my rounds, checking on patients, and making sure everything was in order. Around midnight, I received a call from the front desk. They told me a man had walked into the ER, covered in blood and looking disoriented. I rushed to the ER to find out more. When I arrived, I saw the man sitting in the corner, staring blankly at the wall. He was in his late 40s, wearing a tattered jacket and jeans. His hands were shaking, and he had a deep gash on his forehead. I approached him cautiously. "Sir, can you tell me what happened?" I asked. He slowly turned to look at me, his eyes empty and hollow. "They're coming for me," he whispered. "Who's coming for you?" I tried to get more information, but he just kept repeating the same phrase. I motioned for the other nurse, Anita, to help me get him into a room. We managed to clean him up and bandage his wound. He remained silent, staring at the ceiling. I decided to call the police, thinking he might be a victim of a crime. As we waited for the police to arrive, strange things started happening. The lights in the room began to flicker, and the temperature dropped suddenly. I could see my breath in the air. Anita looked at me with wide eyes, clearly unsettled. "Dorian, what's going on?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I don't know," I replied, trying to stay calm. "Let's just keep an eye on him until the police get here." Minutes felt like hours, and the eerie feeling in the room only intensified. Suddenly, the man sat up straight, his eyes wide with terror. "They're here," he screamed. Before we could react, the door to the room slammed shut. The lights went out completely, plunging us into darkness. I fumbled for my flashlight and turned it on. The beam of light revealed the man standing in the corner, his eyes now glowing an unnatural shade of red. "Anita, stay close to me," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. We slowly backed away, but the man started walking towards us, his movements jerky and unnatural. I could hear Anita's breathing quicken, and I knew we had to get out of there. "Dorian, what's happening?" she asked, panic in her voice. "I don't know, but we need to get out of here," I said, trying to think of a way to escape. Just then, the door burst open, and 2 police officers rushed in. They looked at the man and immediately drew their guns. "Get on the ground," one of the officers shouted. The man didn't comply. Instead, he let out a blood-curdling scream that echoed through the hospital. The officers opened fire, but the bullets seemed to pass right through him. He continued to advance. His eyes locked onto me. I grabbed Anita's hand and pulled her out of the room. We ran down the hallway, hearing the man's screams behind us. We didn't stop until we reached the nurse's station. "What the hell was that?" Anita asked, her face pale. "I have no idea," I replied, trying to catch my breath. "But we need to get everyone out of here." We quickly evacuated the patients and staff, moving them to the far end of the hospital. The police set up a perimeter, but the strange occurrences continued. Lights flickered, doors slammed shut on their own, and an overwhelming sense of dread hung in the air. Hours later, the sun began to rise, and the strange phenomena ceased. The police searched the hospital, but found no trace of the man. It was as if he had vanished into thin air. The only evidence of his presence was the blood-stained room and the terrified expressions on the faces of everyone who had been there. I resigned from my night shift position the next day. I couldn't shake the feeling that whatever had happened that night was far from over. To this day, I refuse to work after midnight. Some things are better left in the dark. I'll never forget the terror I felt that night, and I hope I never experience anything like it again. The hospital remains open, but those of us who were there know the truth. There are things in this world that cannot be explained, and sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we can't see.